Story 1. Please see the attached email. The attached email is one they sent 2 weeks ago, stating the exact opposite in their own words. Story 2. I believe there may be a discrepancy in the information provided. Could you please clarify or verify the accuracy of that statement? It seems there might be a misunderstanding or misstatement here. I have concerns about the accuracy of that information. Story 3. The big boss where I used to work started emails with, "Help me understand." I use the same technique now. Story 4. Everyone here is wrong. The answer is, yes. I am going to have to disagree with you there. Story 5. Group setting. I'm not confident that we're aligned here. Let's discuss offline. Private but friendly. Hey, why aren't we on the same page? Private but not friendly. I'm completely confident that we're not on the same page. Let's figure out where the lapse is before this progresses. Private with another coworker. I know that person is being dishonest. I'm going to let them take this lie too far and then make them look bad. Story 6. My records, this article, and this email thread indicate that another thing happened. Is there something I am overlooking here? That shows you took the time to find proof and gives the other party an opportunity to course correct without becoming defensive. Story 7. Or possibly. I do not believe that is accurate based on the information we both have. This removes the wiggle room they might have to say that their view was different from yours because they had different information. Story 8. You cite the evidence of the lie in a non-accusatory way. The email in question clearly indicates that the work would be performed by X, or whatever the evidence is. Just the facts. Story 9. You do not. You start the email with, "I am a little confused." Then attach evidence. If you do not have evidence to attach, do not send the email. Story 10. In a group setting, I am not clear or on board with your premise or conclusions. Let's break out when it is mutually convenient and see if we can get on the same page and move forward. In a private setting with a peer or subordinate, I do not agree, but you can convince me I am wrong. With a superior, if that is your decision, we can proceed, but I am not following the merits. If the relationship is healthy. Story 11. You are being very disrespectful. Please leave my office immediately. Story 12. I smell nonsense. This is probably why I do not work in a corporate environment, but it has gotten me this far. Story 13. Can you provide the link to that information? Or can you forward the email containing that information? Or see attached. Story 14. Actually lying? Like not just being wrong about something or understating a negative to be polite. In such a situation, the polite and professional, that is corporate thing to do would be to allow for the possibility of error on your own part and indicate a willingness to be persuaded otherwise. I do not see how that could possibly be true, but I am willing to listen to your explanation. Story 15. You do not. You simply provide the receipts and restate what was previously verified by whom and when. If you cannot, it may as well not be a lie. Document everything. Story 16. Your claim does not align with current evidence. For that was not my understanding of the situation. Can you please provide evidence? Story 17. Recite the contrary with evidence. Liar. I was not late. You. Thank you for your insight into this incident. Please see the attached timestamp and log of your swipe in. I have copied the Cardex team in case there were any reported incidents of misaligned timestamps with the Cardex system between X and Y. Story 18. Cover your actions by emailing yourself, thereby creating a time and date stamped document. Be as explicit as possible. Journals can make or break a case. The human resources manager before me had a keep this somewhere file. Came in handy on several occasions. Remember that whatever you document may end up as evidence in court. Proceed with caution. Story 19. I am afraid I am a bit confused. Please help me understand the underlying facts that you feel support your assertion. Story 20. I believe you are misrepresenting some crucial facts in this situation. Please help me understand how you reached that conclusion. Story 21. We seem to have conflicting information. I understand customer experience from my conversation with quality assurance. Can you please explain zero defects? I just want to make sure we have everything in order and there have been no miscommunications. Story 22. Per policy manual technical name, section, and any subsection. I have a job where I inspect projects and sometimes return them for corrections. I have found that the best way to prevent dishonesty in my work is to quote the policy as part of the email requesting corrections. Occasionally, people with high confidence but who are profoundly wrong tell me I am misunderstanding our clear policy manual. If my quote of the policy does not correct them, I include both of our supervisors on the email, where I am proven right again. Story 23. That contradicts what you said at last week's meeting. We died hearing our client call out our boss like that. She was getting tired of him. Story 24. First, gather evidence. Then offer a professional way out by sending an email in the email or Slack chain, if there is one, and if they are sure they have all the details correct. Hi Bernie. Regarding the catering order issue, I just wanted to confirm that you have given us all the facts before I commit to action on my side. If they insist, present the facts the next day. Story 25. You stated that we can do this and stay under budget while achieving incredible results. I would appreciate it if you shared the source of your figures so that we can understand how you reached these strategic conclusions and use them to refine our quarterly forecasts. It would be beneficial for all the other managers to take some of these points back to their teams to ensure we are all aligned and working in the same direction. Yes, since we are all here with the stakeholders, the screen share is yours. Please go ahead. Story 26. Due to the circumstances of the recent events, I do not think what you said was intended to be true. Perhaps you would try again? Story 27. It appears that there is a fundamental disconnect between your statement and the facts on the ground. Story 28. According to the last email or conversation, in regard to the last email or conversation, as previously stated in the last email or conversation, basically anything pointing back to evidence of their lie or proof of whatever was said. Story 29. When I was at Exelon, the largest nuclear reactor operating company in the United States, I was in the bubble at our corporate office listening to the morning plant status call. One of the stations was describing an issue that occurred, and it was strange how they were describing it. The operations vice president asked a question, and they gave a strange answer. While on mute, he said, "I don't think they know what they are doing." He asked another question, and the answer was a little dodgy. Again, on mute, he said out loud to the room, "They don't know what they are doing." He asked them to follow up, and when they responded, he muttered, "They are full of nonsense." Then he turned to a senior vice president below him and said, "Get on a plane and go there today, and let them know how I feel about this." I also saw one of the slipperiest operations managers start saying whatever he thought would take the heat off him. The same operations vice president said, "Just stop talking. I know none of it is true." Story 30. Can you help me understand the discrepancy between what is stated here and what was stated in last week's email? Story 31. Based on the information available, there may be a discrepancy between your statement and the facts. Story 32. I worked in a substance abuse recovery center and had a great boss, the kind who gives praise only when absolutely deserved and the rest of the time you're not sure if they hate you or even know you exist but shares knowledge freely. A resident tested positive, was upset, and yelled, "Are you saying I'm lying?" My boss replied, "No, nobody ever said you were lying. I'm saying that I don't believe you. Try harder to convince me. It's effective in an argument. If they are lying, they're done. If they aren't, they become calmer because you offered a way out." Story 33. Having reviewed our previous conversations, it comes to my attention that there are some inconsistencies in your messaging. I would be happy to make time to discuss this further. Perhaps we should involve our line manager to ensure we are all on the same page. Regarding the corporate issue, you have changed your story 5 times now. I am more than willing to involve management if the situation does not improve. Story 34. This is not in line with the data or your standard operating procedure. Please refer back to the facts, or say, "My understanding is." Story 35. It feels like most of these are just clarifying questions rather than calling someone a liar, even if euphemistically. What would actual corporate language be for "you are dishonest"? Story 36. You look them in the eyes and say, "Okay," quietly, and give a very understated nod. That is the cue at my office that you made a mistake or a wrong. Story 37. The reports do not substantiate that this is the case. Are there other sources you can share that show otherwise? Story 38. You can use the late Queen's phrase "recollections may vary," which I have always thought was an amazing line for how much is packed into it. Story 39. Folks are being too defensive. The proper way to say "you are lying" in corporate language is, "According to X, Y, and Z, your statement is wrong. If I am missing something, please let me know. Otherwise, please revise." Story 40. Can you please elaborate for me? Insert names here, and I seem to recall a completely different sequence of events. Story 41. That does not quite align with our evaluation of the situation. There appears to be a contradiction here. Story 42. It has come to our attention that there appears to have been a misappropriation of facts in this matter. Story 43. Please do not make me have to think for you. I am quite busy thinking for Colin and the entire Indian offshore team we have been required to use. Story 44. That might not work in every company, though. I am not sure that is entirely accurate in the past. Story 45. I just had this happen last week. They were not lying, but the equipment certification did not match the equipment specified in the plan. It is important that the certified equipment is what is called out in the plan. I asked them to provide the trace between the certified equipment and the equipment specified in the plan because it was unclear to me. They rewrote the plan using the certified equipment nomenclature and identification number. Story 46. You said you did not know who used the last of the coffee creamer. The lie detector determined that was a lie. Story 47. Can you show me how you arrived at that conclusion? Do you have anything to support that statement? Story 48. Oh, this is easy. You do not say they are lying. You ask them for concrete evidence. You ask them to prove it. If they cannot provide it, then that is when you say they have a weak argument. Story 49. That is incorrect. It is not unprofessional to point out an error, and you do not need to over-explain or twist yourself into not appeasing them, especially if they are being deliberately dishonest. Story 50. What led you to that conclusion? Because the facts, numbers, outcome, and situation point to a different conclusion. Story 51. I am sorry I missed that. Please forward me the email with the details of the original request, and I will review it. Note: I did not miss it, and there was no original request. Story 52. The precise correlation between the information you communicated and the facts, insofar as they can be determined and demonstrated, is such as to cause epistemological problems of sufficient magnitude to place on the logical and semantic resources of the English language a heavier burden than they can reasonably be expected to bear. Story 53. How do you actually say that with all the meaning attached to it? Saying that is not correct or "I disagree with you" is not the same as saying you are purposefully saying something that you know is not true. Story 54. There seems to be some inconsistency between current and prior guidance. Please advise which is correct and provide supporting procedures. Story 55. So I use this more as in, I don't know what you are talking about, but I cannot. My records do not corroborate that. Story 56. 1. We may need to reconcile the underlying data to ensure your statement is thoroughly tested and valid. There seems to be a disconnect with one or more assumptions or data elements, which may be distorting your conclusions. Story 57. Not from the corporate world, but during the Spycatcher trial in the United Kingdom many years ago, one of the witnesses denied he was lying but claimed he was merely being economical with the truth. Story 58. If you were my former team leader, you might aggressively scream, "You are a liar. How dare you put words in my mouth?" I gave her feedback when she asked for it, and then she tried, unsuccessfully, to fire me. Story 59. Usually, I follow the principle of trust but verify, so we need to double-check this. Then make sure someone has ownership of the verification and communicates in a way that includes all relevant parties in a group. This allows people to correct themselves or gives them a task where you know their assumption will fail. Once it is verified with proof, we are usually good. You can generally reach this point by simply mentioning that you have a different understanding and proceeding from there. Usually, people are not malicious, just mistaken. Guiding them to this understanding is a skill. Story 60. How did you arrive at that conclusion? Do you have more information than what is available to the rest of the team? Make sure you establish that your point of view is based on data you have gathered, and then offer them an opportunity to present theirs. You do not want to be too cocky because you could always be wrong. Story 61. Unless I have misunderstood the premise, the person is lying. They do not have their facts wrong. They are not inaccurate. They are consciously and deliberately making up a story for their own gain. For any of us to accuse them of lying, we need to understand the full situation and have indisputable proof that they are lying. You need to call them out. Saying you are lying is the appropriate response in this situation. If you are unsure whether they are lying, then you simply have a disagreement on the facts and need to respond appropriately. Story 62. That is different from the conclusion I reached. Let us schedule a meeting to ensure we both have all the information. There are 20 different ways to phrase this depending on 1. How difficult the other person is. 2. How assertive you want to be. 3. How confident you are that you are correct. 4. How important it is to be correct. 5. Who might see these messages? Story 63. Can you send me the information you are using to make that determination? Because it does not match what I have. Story 64. Okay, not being silly. Thank you, that is interesting input. It clashes with our current understanding, but it will be instructive to put them side by side and see how they line up. Kind of a corporate version of I know you are exaggerating. You know you are exaggerating, but I will give you a head start on cleaning out your desk before I report you. Story 65. My favorite thing to say is, and it is absolutely crucial to say it in a smarmy, condescending way, I believe that you believe it. Story 66. I have used the phrase, poor historian of the facts, many times in my career. Claims adjusters and attorneys do not accuse policyholders of lying to them. They just note that the person appears to be a poor historian of the facts. Story 67. You are lying is a perfectly professional response to someone lying, depending on the tone. This is not true is probably softer. There is no need for doublespeak if it is a clear-cut situation. Story 68. Are you sure? If they do not recant, follow up by preserving the exchange in their client or employee file and notifying their supervisor or management committee as appropriate. Story 69. The facts of the matter seem to point to a different conclusion. Proceed with a 2-page logical explanation. Story 70. You possess some inaccurate information, and perhaps I can help. You diplomatically cite the true picture to help your colleague. Story 71. We have some conflicting information. Could you please email us up-to-date documentation confirming this? This provides them an opportunity to clarify that the information they were given may be inaccurate or outdated through no fault of their own, and helps prevent them from shutting down communication. It also begins the process of creating a paper trail in case any misrepresentations result in legal action. Avoid accepting links to documents on websites, as links can be removed or replaced with different documents. Always request a PDF when possible. Ensure that someone with decision-making authority on both sides is copied on the message if the person you are communicating with is not in charge. This helps ensure accountability if management on the opposing side does not intervene or if satisfactory correction is not made. Story 72. I try to use, I am unsure, rather than definitive statements. Something that is much softer and puts it on me if I turn out to be wrong. For example, based on what I see, I am unsure of that categorization. It seems like this categorization might fit what I am seeing better. Story 73. Man, it depresses me when people have to talk like robots instead of like humans because someone's feelings can be hurt. How much corporate is too much? Sometimes you just need to call out nonsense. Story 74. I am an auditor, and I simply say your assertion is not supported by the documentation. I have never called anyone a liar because the definition of lying includes intent, and who knows what is going on in another person's mind. However, I can objectively say that what they say is not in alignment with independent evidence. Story 75. Not calling someone a liar or incompetent, but I am reminded of a technical support specialist who would always be called to help someone because they couldn't use a software application, meaning they could not follow the instructions. His response would be, "The problem lies between the mouse and the chair." Story 76. Actually, just say, "You are lying. This is what my friend does as a chief executive officer to the president during board meetings." Story 77. Show me the data. If they are lying, they will not be able to. If they are not, they can provide it and you can have a constructive conversation. Story 78. I believe that there is an error in that statement. Please find the attached evidence for their blatant lie for your reference. Story 79. Do not stick to discussing facts. For example, the data shows, if dishonesty is a problem, escalate the issue to management or human resources. Story 80. Why avoid addressing it directly? Say, that is not true, or you are lying. Call people out on their dishonesty instead of avoiding the issue. Story 81. Certain data points require reevaluation before finalizing the stated conclusions. I generally ask, are you in sales mode or developer mode? Story 82. You do not. Accusations are not okay. I would just say the facts that I have available suggest otherwise or something like that. Story 83. I see you are saying it is this, but I understood it to be that. Can you help clear up the confusion here? Story 84. When my dad used to work in an office, if he thought someone was lying, he would say, "That's fantastic," meaning fantastical or fantasy. Story 85. I find your statement inaccurate, or I found inaccuracies in it, or there is a better way to do this. My best guess based on my experience is none. Just my 2 cents. Story 86. Me. What the hell? That is just wrong. My boss. That does not sound right. Let's sit down and go over it. Me. Are you lying to me? My boss. I think a miscommunication has happened. Please take a look at the screenshot attached. Me. Oh, are you serious? Human resources. Let's have a sit down and go over what is acceptable language to use in email. Story 87. Hi. I apologize if I am misinterpreting your response. I was under the impression we agreed on the following point on the specific date mentioned in the email, as outlined below. Please let me know if there is any context regarding the change or update. Story 88. I have said something along the lines of that is not true because I am looking at the thing right now. My approach might be too direct, though. Just do not accuse and stick to facts. Work cultures can vary drastically in the style of communication that is acceptable and appropriate. I have worked at places where being very direct is fine, and other places would think you are being the biggest, most aggressive person for saying the same thing because the culture communicated more indirectly. Story 89. Once I got really angry with inconsistent reporting from a supplier. You are either lying to me or you are outright unintelligent. Since I do respect you, and I don't think you are unintelligent, you must be lying to me. Actually, I really thought that the guy was incompetent and that was the last straw. Story 90. Okay, so you don't exactly want to say, you're lying in the middle of a boardroom, right? You have to keep it smooth and gentle. Here is how you can say it in a more corporate-friendly way. That is an interesting take. Do you have any data to back that up? Basically, the polite way of saying, prove it. That is not my understanding. Could you walk me through how you got there? This low-key calls it out while still sounding curious. It is all in the tone. Calm face, friendly voice, but your brain is like, no, that is not right. Story 91. Send receipts and then say, please provide care clarification. I was working under the understanding of what we had previously discussed. Has that changed? And definitely reply to all. Story 92. Let me confirm that with the information I have. The information I have does not confirm what you told me. Story 93. I am confused because I was under the impression that as we agreed upon here. Did something change that I am not aware of? Story 94. I may be misunderstanding. As per the previous attached email, X was written. Could clarification be provided? Story 95. I almost never call out someone unless it especially makes me look bad, and then I show receipts. Also, I handle it one-on-one unless they decide to bring it to a wider audience. That said, one time our entire department was being rebadged to an outsourcer. I knew I would not last long after the transition. Typical playbook: rebadge everyone, then fire anyone who was formerly management. So I told the new director straight up, "You lied to all of these people. You told them no reorganization, no changes to daily work, but you and I both know in a month you will be changing all management and realigning roles." I left that meeting, went to lunch, came back to my desk packed up, and they handed me my final paperwork in the parking lot. I did not even get to make the transition. Worth it, though. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.